Welcome to the Battlefield Show. I'm your host, Sage Goodwin, and as always, I'm joined by Sammy Boy. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Doing pretty good as we get into the holiday seasons here. We're going to be talking about some tips and tricks for beginners getting into Battlefield 2042, as well as a discussion on the new leaks, rumors going around for Battlefield 2042's first season. So let's jump right in and talk about that. This podcast is a production of Uplink Media Group. Uplink is a podcast network dedicated to highlighting the love and experience of gaming and pop culture. Check out our other shows, Star Wars Uplink and The Forge, the Halo Infinite podcast, as well as our YouTube channels for even deeper dives into Battlefield, Star Wars, and more. YouTube.com/Uplink podcast and StarWarsUplink.com. Okay, I say we're going to touch on the tips and tricks first, because I think that'll be a big question that a lot of people have in jumping into Battlefield, especially in the current state. Maybe you got it for Christmas and you're like, man, I really want to take best advantage of this game as I can. So let's talk about that. What's probably like your biggest tip for new players if maybe this is their first Battlefield game?
There's quite a bit because it's a very like unique Battlefield game. It's even players who have been playing for years, there's a lot of stuff that we all have to get used to. I think for a new player, the best tip I could probably give is actually just to play a bit of solo breakthrough and conquest and actually get your guns leveled up a lot faster. It's something that I kind of just didn't really. I almost like dismissed it initially because I thought, I'll just play multiplayer and level it up and all that kind of thing. But I've jumped into it a few times, and that's essentially now if I get like a weapon that I haven't really used yet, I'll just go play a game of like solo breakthrough first, and usually you can get like half the attachments before you've even played a game, and it only takes like one game. So that's probably the biggest tip, honestly, that is something I think a lot of people overlook it and it's the same for me. I'm not a solo, like an offline player. I generally just like jumping into multiplayer, but it actually works really well to just kind of get those first couple of attachments. You can get like an extended mag and a suppressor and stuff like that, a red dot sight, and kind of just helps you jump into multiplayer a bit better, because a lot of those weapons with like the iron sights and stuff, they are a little bit tough to use at times. So yeah, that's probably my number one tip, is just to jump into some solo and just get the feel of it and level up some guns, really.
That is fantastic. I never even thought about that. So question for you, and I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but every time I try to go to solo breakthrough or do any of the solo modes, it says I'm still waiting for players. How do you actually get into a solo version of the game?
Wait, so you're like searching and it's saying that you're waiting for players?
Yeah, like I'll go through and select solo breakthrough or solo conquest, and every time I do, it opens up like it's waiting for more people to join the lobby.
Oh, what the hell? That's weird. It has done that for me, where it has like a long loading time, and you know how like if you load into a multiplayer game and it puts you on that screen where you can see like your player card and it just sort of sits you there with the squad name and stuff. It's done that to me. Now that you say that, it's done it a few times where it takes ages to load. So maybe if you just, as weird as it sounds, maybe if you just sit there for longer, it shouldn't take that long, especially because you're on PC. It should be even faster. But maybe there's some sort of glitch that we're not really like aware of that, because not many people are playing solo.
Yeah,
it might not be a common thing. I'm not too sure, but I have had that a few times where you load in and it sort of takes like I don't know, like more than 30 seconds to just get into the game, which it shouldn't for a solo game. But I think because it's technically co-op, I think maybe it does search for players or something. So
maybe I'm just not waiting long enough. Yeah.
But then again, if it's longer than you would expect, like a lot longer, then maybe it is a glitch. I'm not really sure.
Okay, I'll have to try it again after we record the podcast. Maybe I'll try it on console and see what happens there. Maybe just get a little bit of a different experience there. But that's good.
Yeah.
That I'd say that's some fantastic advice, just to hop in and get some solo in, because you still can earn the experience and level up your weapons, and you're just gonna learn the controls for the game so much better and under less stress, or under less kind of like, oh, if I am just getting started and I really want to learn the ropes and I don't want to bring my team down possibly, it's a fantastic opportunity to just jump in, get some experience, start learning what your favorite weapons are, and just keep on going that way.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, I think it's something that, and again, myself included, we've kind of probably all overlooked it a bit just because it's solo. It's not what we're used to, but it's honestly good fun. You just sort of jump in. It's just very casual, and you can get like 200, 300 kills a game because it's just the way that the bots like sort of bunch up together. So you can honestly just go nuts and get like hundreds of kills a game. And I think I've had a few weapons now where I've started them at level 0 and like maxed them out in a single game, which takes like 20 to 30 minutes. So it's a really fast way, because it's based on kills, not like XP. I think there is an XP cap.
Yeah.
But because the weapons are based on, get 30 kills to get this attachment, the XP doesn't really matter, because you get, even a bad game, you'll still get 100 kills and you'll still get all those like early attachments. And then even if that feels, useful enough, you can then jump into multiplayer, and it kind of just makes that initial, the initial experience with each gun is just a bit less sort of jarring, because there's been a few guns that I've used and, unlock them and use them the first time in multiplayer, and they're just like, wow, this feels really bad. But then once you get some attachments, they're a lot better. So it's definitely being underused, I think.
You blew my mind with that. Never really made the correlation, so I'm definitely going to be hopping into some solo and just kind of getting some more experience using the different guns, and also just leveling them up, because you do want to get them leveled up as much as possible before you get into more of like the heavier duty jumping in and trying to get as many kills as possible, because you're going to really want those attachments and just get a little bit more customization going. So definitely good recommendation there. For me, what I would probably recommend, if you are specifically, I think once you get to the point where you're leveled up, you've gone through the solo, I would hop on and play some Portal. Honestly, play some Portal. Try to find like a gun master mode and go through and cycle through all the weapons, and it's just a really fun way that I've found to get a lot better a lot more quickly. Like, I was hopping into Gunmaster and like I was sucking for the first few matches and I was getting really frustrated, but I knew like the more time I gave it, the better I would be getting. And it ended up, by the fourth game, I was getting in the middle of the leaderboard, and I wasn't doing that before. So that's probably one of my favorite things, and that's how I was able to get better at mouse and keyboard, was hop into Battlefield 4 Gunmaster and just be able to, because it's so quick paced. Like it's you're getting in, you're trying to get some kills, you're getting killed, and then you respawn. Like, there is no loading, really. You are just cycling through all the weapons, and you get a lot of experience with each of those as you play through.
That's a really good point, actually. I haven't really thought of that. That the pace of the game actually makes it, a 10-minute game, you're probably getting more, like you're in more gunfights than in a full game of Conquest. So it is a really good way of making sure that you're getting that experience really quick, but then also, you're sort of touching on every weapon in the game, and it makes you, kind of puts you out of your comfort zone a little bit, where you might be really good with a SMG, but when it makes you use an LMG, it might be tough initially, but the more you do it, you're just going to get better with every weapon, and then, that just kind of makes you an all-round better player. So it is a pretty good, it's almost like a training mode in a way.
Yeah.
It is a really good way to sort of just get good at the game in general, in terms of the gunfight side of things. You're getting plenty of gunfights and you're using every weapon. So it's probably the best way to get used to it, especially because it is multiplayer. Like, the solo stuff is good for leveling up, but it's not quite as good for actually getting that experience against real players. But
Yeah.
yeah, Gunmaster's definitely, it's probably that perfect middle ground of crazy pace, you're using all the weapons, and it is multiplayer as well.
Yeah, that's how I found I get a lot better. Like, I've gotten a lot quicker with my scoping because you're going to be close range with a sniper and you have to make the shot. Otherwise, you're never going to get out of this freaking snipers.
Yeah.
Played some on stream on Saturday, and I was like, the first couple of matches, I was like, I'm going crazy right now. And by the third and fourth matches, I was like, okay, yeah, this is good. Now here we go.
Yeah, it definitely takes a little bit. I remember that, like, pretty much any game that I've played where there's gun game or gun master, it's like it always takes a little bit to warm up to it, and the first few games are always so frustrating because you get stuck. There's like one weapon you get stuck on.
Yep.
And you just hate life for a bit, but then it once you've played it for a bit and you get used to all the guns, it's the thing on top of all this that we're saying is it's arguably one of the funnest modes in general. Like, it's just so much fun as well. So not only will you get better, but you will have a good time doing it as well.
C4, man, is probably my most frustrating thing to try to get some kills with, because you have to time it so well.
Yeah.
You have to make sure you're not getting sniped, place it, hope someone comes down that specific path, or just be really quick with throwing and activating it.
Yeah.
So yeah, on top of those things, just playing the game, honestly, is a great way. Even if it is only 30 minutes, if you just play one match, you're going to get one match a day or as many times a week that you can. You will just get better just because you're playing it more. I know that's something that I tried to do, especially before Battlefield 2042 launched. I was playing Battlefield 5 and Battlefield 4, alternating in between those just to get more experience with my hands on the controls. And this game is a little bit different in terms of the controls going from Battlefield 5 to Battlefield 2042. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. I really like the movement of Battlefield 2042. I definitely slide as frequently as I can. Just really use that to your advantage and just stay moving. As long as you stay moving, you'll do a much better job staying alive than if you're just standing there trying to scope.
Yeah, movement is one of those things that it's something that I remember, like, when I first started playing shooters, like, and I was obviously not good at all. Like, you don't really think of moving as a key thing to do. It's kind of, you're only thinking about like shooting people, and the movement is just kind of secondary. But one thing I've learned as I've gotten better, and also just like, watching streamers play and stuff like that, is that movement is essentially the most important thing you can do. If you're moving in the right way and moving, constantly moving and stuff like that, it'll make you a completely different player. You can kind of tell even if I'm watching someone play, you can almost tell how good they are by how, like, the way that they move. And like you said, constantly sliding, and if you're going to peek a corner, like doing it quick rather than slowly peeking the corner, like trying to jump out, stuff like that, just trying to always be moving. It's one thing to definitely try and get the hang of, because it will give you a pretty big advantage, considering, like I said, not many people really think about it. It's just a way of getting from point A to point B. But if you're sliding behind cover, and if someone's shooting at you, you kind of do like the zigzag movements and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It can really help out in a way it's pretty basic to do. It's just, you're literally just moving, but it really can make you a very good player compared to someone who just sort of stands still and walks around slowly and stuff like that.
Yeah. You want to be, even if you're staying in a single spot, just moving side to side, you're going to survive longer because you have that movement. It's a lot harder to get a scope on you if you are being a little bit more mobile, or maybe a little bit more sporadic than someone just standing there.
Yeah, 100%. And the sporadic is a good point as well. It's like, it's almost just a bit of unpredictability. If you're doing stuff that people don't know what you're going to do next, then you're kind of in the driver's seat in that gunfight. If you're just standing still, they know exactly where to shoot. But if you're moving side to side, but then you're not just doing the same movement, you move, left, right, but then you push 2 steps to the right instead, that's going to throw people off. And it's just those little things that, you don't really think about it too much. It becomes second nature once you do, like, put in the work. It just becomes a natural thing that you do. But if you try and improve at it, it will definitely make a really, really big improvement.
Mm-hmm. So there aren't a whole lot of options when you start up. There's basically 1 or 2 in each of the different categories of weapons. Which do you think is like the best standard weapon? Is it just that single LMG, or is it the, like, what would you recommend the weapon someone uses?
I think at the moment the PKP is definitely
Mm-hmm.
the best. I think it's the second LMG that you unlock. It's bordering on broken. It's not like completely overpowered, but it's like definitely the best. But it also takes a bit to unlock. I think it's like level 30-ish, somewhere around that, like 25 to 30 or something. So I think the M5, which is, I think it's unlocked
I
straight
think
away.
so, yeah.
That's probably the best one to start with, I think. All the initial ones are actually pretty decent, to be fair, but
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really good. That is kind of like the base weapon, because it's like, it's decent at close range, it's decent at long range. It's just kind of like the all rounder, I guess, the jack of all trades. So I think that's a good one to start out with for anyone who's new. And it's even, fully kitted out. It's still probably one of the top 5 or so guns as well. So it's not like it's just only good early on. It's actually just in general a pretty good weapon.
Yeah, I agree. I went from that to the SVK, and I really enjoyed my time with that. So it just depends on what kind of fighter you are, but that base one honestly is one of the best especially in the beginning. Like, just use that, get it leveled up, get some time, unlock those other ones, and you'll be in a really good spot.
Yeah, 100%.
Switching gears a little bit, let's talk about the rumors going around, the leaks around the first season for Battlefield 2042. And I'm going to start with when, and then we can get to what. But I hope this isn't the case. I hope this isn't the case. But according to Temporal, the first season for Battlefield 2042 will be March 2022. Yeah,
I'm kind of, and this is, the listeners are probably sick of me being like on the fence on things, but I'm kind of on the fence with it because I can see both sides. Where one, and just like everyone else, I would love if season 1 started today. That'd be sick. Like, the earlier we get content, the better.
Yeah.
But then I know that if they rush season 1, people will be mad that they're already trying to milk us with the battle pass.
That's
and
true.
The game's not even fixed yet, and they're already pushing, monetization and stuff. So it's another one of those situations where it's like I can really just see both sides of it. And for me, I was expecting like Feb. There's no chance it was ever coming in January. So it's only 1 month less. If it was like April or May, then I'd probably be on the side of like, this is really not a good look. But considering it's only a 1 month slower period than I was expecting it to be, I'm not too fussed about it. And like I said, I think no matter what they do, I think people are going to be mad. Like, if they do it too soon, people will go, they're just milking us for our money for the battle pass, blah blah blah. And if they do it too late, then it's like, they're just pushing it back, and the game should have been delayed, blah blah blah. So it's kind of just one of those tough situations where it's going to be divisive no matter what happens, I think.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if this is something that I just made up in my head or if I saw it somewhere, but I thought we had got confirmation that it'd be like January that we were going to get the first season, that it was going to be the start of the new year, and that would be like the first kickoff of the official season. And while we may not get the map, then it'll start the battle pass. I thought that's the case, but maybe it was just me kind of wishful thinking or hearing first of the year and just saying, oh yeah, that's January.
Yeah, I think it was like, I think they touched on it, but I think it was that they were going to talk about it early next year, maybe. I can't remember. I know what you're talking about because they've said something about it starting next year already.
Yeah.
So I know what you're talking about, and I think I can't remember what it said. Maybe it did say it was meant to be early. I'm not sure, but I think it was like in maybe like the patch 2 or 3 patch notes that they mentioned season 1 would be like will or maybe that this could be the wording that they said. For example, we'll get into it next year, like early next year, and maybe that's them saying like we'll start talking about it when. They could have worded it. I've seen them do this so many times where they word things really weird, where it's like on their end they're saying we'll start talking about it, and on our end we're thinking that means we will get into season 1 in early next year. So it could be that type of situation. I'm not really sure, but I don't think there's been any like actual confirmation anyway, because there would have been. I know there would have been a ton of videos and stuff. I probably would have made a video if there was confirmation. So unless I've completely missed it, maybe, but I don't think there's been any so far.
So from my point of view, I too am. I can see definitely both sides of the perspective of, oh, they aren't doing enough for the game. They need to get into a really good spot before they start asking people for more money. But also as someone who, like, I bought the Ultimate Edition and I still don't know what that necessarily includes in the game. Like, I paid that money, and to wait that it'll be 5 months by the time from launch to when this actually gets out, and we're in the same period like Battlefront was, where it took 6 months before we actually got meaningful content in the game. And I was it's feeling more like the struggles of Battlefront 2 at launch than it is the kind of like really clear consistent. So I'm really torn on that point. Like, they really do need to get this game into a much better position before they say, oh, hey, the Battle Pass. But in terms of like, they were pushing the Gold and Ultimate Edition so hard, and those included the Battle Pass. So it's like, yeah, well, I already spent my money, and I still don't know what that actually got me.
Yeah, it's a tough one, because like for me with the Battle Pass, or like with the Ultimate Edition, when I bought it, I didn't really like. I'm pretty dumb with my money when it comes to games. Like, I just go, oh, Ultimate Edition, I'm going to buy that. If they said what it was going to be or when it was starting or whatever, and then they didn't live up to that, I think that's an issue. But at the end of the day, like, it is our decision to buy it without knowing, because technically we don't know.
Yeah.
When you go and buy it, it doesn't say what it is. So at the end of the day, it's kind of our decision to buy it, the Ultimate Edition. And I've had the same conversation with a few people as well, where it's like they feel almost as though they've been like tricked into buying that, when at the end of the day, like the base edition was there as well. Like, it was no one was sort of forcing us into it. And I'm in the same boat. I bought the Ultimate Edition, and I'm the same way. I want, like, I've paid extra money. I want the extra benefit. So
yeah,
the sooner the better. I'm not really like saying I want it to be later. I would love it to start the 1st of January if that was when it was going to start. But it's more just like, as long as we get what they said. They just said there's a year worth of like content in that. So as long as that now goes from March until March 2023, as long as I get that year, I don't really care too much.
That's a good point. Like, as long as we do get the year and it didn't start from November and then we had 5 months with no content, as long as it starts with that one season and ends within that, at the end of that year from whenever that first season starts, I think that is a good point to make. So just to follow a rabbit hole, what are your thoughts on, so the game got a free weekend. We'll get into just a second. We'll talk about what exactly is going to be in that first season, but I want to follow this rabbit hole down. They had a free weekend on Steam, and I've seen the game as cheap as $40 from its original price tag for the base editions, and then another, I think, up to 30% off on the Gold and Ultimate editions, depending on what platform or what vendor you get it from. What are your thoughts on that? Like, it seems pretty soon like we had a 70% drop in terms of the player base, and now they're like, oh, hey guys, 30% off, we got you.
I'm again kind of in the middle of like, I can see, because a lot of people will go like, oh, I paid this much and now it's cheaper. That's kind of a kick in the face to us. And I definitely get that, because it's like, what's the point? At this point, we all should just be like, oh, well, I'm not going to buy it at launch. I'm just going to wait a month until it's on sale. So
Yeah.
I do get that, and it's if I could have got the Ultimate Edition for $90 instead of 120, then it's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's just what happens at Christmas. Like every other game is on sale.
I saw
at the
Call
moment.
of Duty at like $35.
Yeah, like it's not just. I think a lot of people. Obviously, there's the whole narrative around Battlefield at the moment that it's just a disaster, and like it's earned that narrative because the launch was terrible.
Yeah.
But a lot of people will jump on that with extra stuff just to fit their little agenda of like, oh, this game sucks. When in reality, every other game is doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So
I think it's such a fascinating time too, because Call of Duty didn't go as well as they had hoped, and they also discounted it even further, but they were also launched earlier, so it kind of makes sense that at that same time it's older than Battlefield was, so they charge slightly less for the game. I think it's interesting too. Like I don't know the last time we had a launch period for a game and then they got a free weekend around that same time. So it's such an interesting time, and I think it really shows the strengths of something like a free to play launch. Because like if you don't run into that issue if the game's free, like you have the battle pass, you pay the money for the battle pass, and it doesn't matter if it goes sell on later or earlier because you're out no money. Maybe you did buy the. Like Apex has the character editions where you get so much of the Apex coins and then you get some exclusive skins. I think it's just showing more of like what people expect from games now. And like no matter what happens, I don't think it's necessarily, there isn't much credence for people complaining that, oh, I spent this much money at launch. You got to play it earlier. So obviously you're going to pay more. If you ultimately wanted to save the most money, you just wait and get it later on. So I think that's going to happen no matter what game you buy. It's just, I think, like you said, it's that narrative around Battlefield 2042 and how, like, it's just hemorrhaging players, and they really want to get that player base back.
Yeah, it's the type of thing that it's a hard thing to like argue back against. I've seen a lot of people in the community sort of going, oh, this is showing the state of the game when they're already like, putting it on sale. It's obviously a mess and they're just trying to get more people. But if you look at all the Deathloop, which was nominated for Game of the Year, that came out a month before Battlefield, and that's on sale for like 50% off, and it's one of the Game of the Years. So it's just a situation where like games just happen to go on sale at Christmas, and they go on sale all the time. Like that's just what happens. And the other thing is that like it's kind of some companies are like forcing the hand of other companies. So like when Call of Duty goes on sale, which they can afford, even if that was the best game they've ever released, they can afford to put it on sale because they just want, their whole business model is like get as many players in there as we can.
Mm-hmm.
When they go on sale for 50% off, then DICE are kind of almost forced to, because who's going to buy Battlefield when it's in a rough state for $100 if you can buy Vanguard for $50? It's almost like as soon as one big game does it, everyone else kind of has to follow, or they're not going to make as many sales. So it's just that combined with Christmas, like everyone just does sales at Christmas. That those two things combined, it's just kind of like it puts everyone in a rough spot. There's kind of no winners other than the companies themselves at the end of the day, because we don't. A lot of people have that issue of I bought it for this much and now it's cheaper. It's annoying. And even the companies, DICE might not have really wanted to put it on sale, but they essentially have to if it's selling for full price and Vanguard's half price.
Yeah,
like who the hell is going to buy Battlefield at the end of the day? So it's just a tough spot, and it's kind of, it can be frustrating when people. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter like using that as like ammo against just Battlefield, when it's like it's every game, like the games that were up for Game of the Year, they're all in the same boat as well.
It's the struggle of launching a game in November, like honestly.
Yeah, exactly.
And it puts them in that rough spot too, because like if they had launched in October, I think that everyone would be like, oh, well, it's however months old. It's totally perfectly fine to have it in on sale a little bit in October. It's been like, I think that's ultimately like that's the state of a game that launches in that holiday season. You're going to have to, you want to get those extra sales. Like that's why you're releasing the game in the holiday season. Like you want the money from the holidays. So obviously you're going to have to play, like you said, if Call of Duty puts theirs on sale, Battlefield is going to definitely be forced to do that because they want those other players as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, like you said, it all comes down to when they release it. I don't understand the end of the year like focus from everyone. It's not just Battlefield.
Yeah.
Every developer, all the big games come out in like October, November. Why don't they release the next Battlefield in May, get it to a good spot by October, and then do a huge marketing push and put it on sale? Like, I don't know. I've never really understood the whole.
It's called
point
EA.
Of everyone launching. I don't really, understand the whole point of everyone launching in the same like 2 weeks of each other. Like we had Halo, COD, and Battlefield within like 3 weeks, and it's like what? Like you're all competitors. Like why you're all trying to like fight each other? Why don't you just spread it out?
Yeah,
and then you're not going to really lose. It's not because they're not competing to try and like make the other one lose. They're just only competing to get their own sales. So the easier way to do that is just move your release date, and then the other two can fight over it. Let Battlefield and Call of Duty fight over it, and Halo moves to whatever date. Like it's, I don't know. I never really understood it.
It's such a strange thing. Like honestly, with DICE's experiences in the past, like they working under that time crunch to get it finished by a holiday season with all of the other holidays. I don't understand why they keep doing that. But also they're Swedish too, so they've got like the couple months that they take off from work too for is it midsummer? They have a holiday where they take off for like a month.
I think,
So maybe that's one of the things. Honestly, just get it done before. But
I think would love for the next one to be like, instead of releasing it in November, push it back another 6 months till May or something, April, May, something like that.
Yeah, or just give the team the opportunity if it needs more time to push it forward.
yeah, because then they can be in that situation where the new Call of Duty's launching in November and Battlefield's already out and it's already in a good spot. It's like at that point 6 months later where it's where it should have been at launch, and then they can just do a big trailer with a big 2 new maps come into the game and just like relaunch it in a way, get that hype up again, and they'll still get the sales that they're still going to sell. Maybe not as many because it's not launching, but if you market it as much as Call of Duty's marketing their game, and people see it's already a proven game because it's been out 6 months, like I don't think you're going to make any less sales doing it that way than launching a broken game with Halo, one of the best shooters that's been out for years, in the same month. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, you're introducing yourself to a world of hurt in terms of comparison. Yeah. I thought it was really fascinating too what J-Dot said, the reason there's such a difference in terms of Battlefield trailers to Call of Duty trailers is they have so much more marketing budget than Battlefield does. And I think that's just ultimately comes down to an EA thing, is like EA just doesn't really market their games as hardcore as other game publishers do. Like if you look at anything that Activision does, like they're pushing it hardcore, especially when it comes to Call of Duty. Yeah,
it's like I reckon,
or even Halo.
DICE probably release as many like trailers, but they don't like have like Call of Duty has. They're on like freaking Doritos and like they're like actually putting, and it's like TV ads or like
I can't go to a bar and see a Battlefield trailer, but I can definitely go to a bar and see a Call of Duty trailer.
Like that's the stuff that they need to really try and work on. Is their trailers are way better than Call of Duty trailers. they release like 4 of them and that's it. They don't do any other like. I guess this year they did do a TV spot, to be fair, but yeah, that was one that was kind of cringy anyway. So probably not the best way to
that was
promote your game.
Really bad one.
Yeah. Maybe they shouldn't do that, actually.
Yeah. Wait a second. Nope, never mind. You lost the privilege. I did see that one on TV when I went on my honeymoon. I saw that one. They had this really strange setup at the TV. I brought my Xbox just because I'm not going to watch freaking hotel TV. I'm going to get my Xbox plugged in and watch Netflix or whatever. But every time I turned the TV on, it was automatically pre-programmed to jump on and have their ads. And I did see one ad for Battlefield, so I guess that's the case.
There you go.
But switching gears a little bit back to that season, we do have what the map will be in terms of at least the leak and data mine for what it is. It's the working title's called Ridge, and it is described as this. Seismic activity in British Columbia has damaged a Canadian-U.S. research facility base. A landslide has exposed the interior and damaged the surrounding area. The Russians wrongly allege that this has revealed a military weapon and are deploying forces onto Canadian soil to secure it. We're going to McKay land.
Yeah, it's annoying that McKay gets his own map. That's I don't like that.
Dang it!
But no, it all sounds pretty interesting to me. I like the way that it's I do like the little storylines and stuff behind the maps, and it sounds like another. Yeah, it's all of them. Say what you will about the actual maps and the design and stuff, but they all have a cool like setting, and the story of the game.
Yeah,
is a big part of it for me. So.
Outside of the game itself, it sounds really cool in terms of like hardcore, very this is the world that's slowly crumbling and people hate life and it sucks to be in any part of the world, and then when you get in the game it's completely different. But in terms of the setup of all the maps, it sounds great. There is also some concept art that looks pretty sweet. That just shows this really majestic looking mountain outcrop. A soldier looking down on this. It looks to be based in autumn because all the trees are yellow and everything's really nice contrast of like a white stone, a road, and some trees. And hopefully, I mean, from this concept art, it looks pretty cool. But we've also seen some of the other concept art for some of the other maps, and from concept art to actual implementation, they're very different in terms of like what part of the map is actually used, because I could totally see there's this big outcropping with some buildings, and I could totally see all of the battle being on that outcrop, which is very flat with some trees, versus the whole of kind of like the mountainous landscape. So we'll see what that actually looks like.
Yeah, it's always hard to properly gauge the concept stuff, because like you said, it is just that, it's a concept, so it's hard to like tell what's actually going to be like. Is that an actual image of the map, or is that just like them setting? Sometimes a lot of concept art is just literally like a random, drawing of the area.
It's a tonal piece.
Just to give the tone of what it's trying to be, not necessarily the actual layout and stuff. So it's gonna be interesting to see how it goes. But like as far as concept art goes, it looks awesome. So
I really love the idea too. Like this mountainous area in British Columbia, a landslide happens and a secret research facility is exposed. Like that sounds awesome. Like
that sounds absolutely sick.
I'm getting some like really interesting. What is it? What in Battlefield 4, the map with the prison cells? Like you have that outside area that's really snowy, and then goes inside. Like I could see something along those lines.
Or Operation Locker.
Yeah, Operation Locker. Yeah, something along those lines is kind of the vibe from that. Just that like landslide exposed research facility, or like the war zone, or not the war zone, the Cold War zombies map. I think the first one, where it does have
yeah.
like that. You go underground, and it's this old research facility from the Soviet Russia unit. Like, I think it could be pretty sweet, depending on what direction they go.
I do hope that it's like it's probably hard for those who are listening because they can't really see it, but in the concept art it is very like vertical, and we kind of touched on this before we recorded, but it'd be cool to have a bit of a different map where it is a bit more vertical, and it doesn't look like there's really that many buildings. Like there's a couple of buildings there, but there's no like skyscrapers and stuff, so at least there is verticality in 2042, but they're mostly just buildings, whereas this has the potential to be a bit more of a vertical map without buildings, so it's more like those ridge lines and stuff. And that, to me, if they do it right, this could already probably be one of my favorite maps, because I really love the maps that are like designed well with the like landscape, where the landscape is the map design rather than like having to put buildings and stuff everywhere. So yeah, it could be a really, really good map. I hope it's I'm not gonna get my hopes up. I'm just gonna wait and see until we get a trailer for it or something, but it definitely it all sounds good, and it all so far looks pretty good. So very keen to see how it actually turns out.
Yeah, it could be pretty sweet. And I completely agree too. Like, I love a good vertical and well-designed map where they actually use the map design itself to flow really well. And we'll see how it goes. Like, honestly, this is just the tone piece for everything. So it could take any number of directions, both good or bad, by the time it actually launches, because we do have a number of months before it actually launches. But like, my favorite map in Battlefront 2015 was the Solus maps, because they had that really nice verticality, especially the Solus mine map, the one that was added in the Outer Rim DLC. Like, that is, I'd say Battlefront 2015 was like maybe one of the last times where we got really, really like across the board great map design, because they specifically design each map for the game mode versus just having current DICE, they make a big map and then they slice it up depending on what game mode. Like, if you're playing Conquest, you play the whole map, but if you're playing, let's just say you're playing Team Deathmatch, it's this small section of the map. So I'd really like to see something along those lines.
Yeah, that is definitely something that I hope they do with maps in the future, is that like they try and do a little bit better at making them, even if they make certain areas. So like, start it off with making a rush map and put that in the middle kind of thing, and then have from there it's like, okay, the rush map is done. This is now like the center of the conquest map, for example, or it can just be somewhere on the map, but then expand it out and go, okay, that works really well for rush. Now let's make like the breakthrough map, where it's essentially a bigger version of that, and then sort of build it around the modes more, rather than all of the maps look sick and they're all like well designed in general, but none of them are well designed for like the actual mode that you're playing. Yeah. And that's probably my main issue with them, is that there are definitely a few that like work really well. They seem like they had breakthrough in mind, but I kind of wish that there were a few more that, like, when you're playing them, you go, oh, this map was like made for this mode. But then when you play Conquest as well, it feels like it's not just a shit map. It's still designed well for Conquest as well.
I think that too comes down to the ideas. I know they said that. I think Tom Henderson said this in one of his, I think it was this big video that he did, that the first map was Orbital, that they wanted to base everything around, in terms of like, that was the first one they got done to where they can start getting builds on it. So they had the most time to develop Orbital, and then they started developing the other maps, and that's why Orbital works so well for like the majority of stuff. Like, that's why it was in the beta. It's because they had more time to really develop that one than the other maps. Yeah,
and hopefully that's something that, for me, like, map design is probably the most pivotal design like element of a game. If the maps suck, I don't like the game. As simple as that. There's been so many games in the past that, like Modern Warfare 2019, for example, that the gunplay was amazing, the movement was amazing, but the maps were absolute, like, they were the worst Call of Duty maps I've ever played, and I just didn't like the game because you can't. It's like the whole area that you're playing in isn't fun. So it's like they definitely need to. I luckily for 2042 have enjoyed pretty much all the maps, at least in one mode. I like them. There's a lot that I dislike in, say, Conquest, but then I tend to like those ones in Breakthrough. So they kind of I kind of like all of them so far. Not in every mode though, but yeah, hopefully that they can just focus a bit more on the map design and make, like we were saying, make them feel like they were designed for the mode that we're playing, rather than it's just a big area that we're just playing in.
Definitely. I think with that, we'll call this episode an end. We're doing a 2 recording this day. We're going to take some time off in terms of us, but you won't notice anything. Next episode, we're going to be talking about our thoughts for Battlefield 2042 in 2022, exactly 20 years before Battlefield 2042 takes place. So hopefully it's a good year, not the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
But thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the Battlefield Show. We greatly appreciate your support, and we have such a blast making these episodes. If you would like to support us, definitely leave us a review on your podcast app of choice. I believe you can leave a review on Apple Podcasts, iTunes. You can do it on the PC as well. And I just got an email notification that you'll be able to rate shows in Spotify soon. So definitely, if you're listening to us on Spotify, we'd love to hear your thoughts and give us a review there and rate us on Spotify. Greatly appreciate it. We'd like to thank you again, and Ethan Clark for the wonderful thumbnail. As always, we'll see you on the battlefield. This podcast is a production of Uplink Media Group. Uplink is a podcast network dedicated to highlighting the love and experience of gaming and pop culture. Check out our other shows, Star Wars Uplink and The Forge, the Halo Infinite podcast, as well as our YouTube channels for even deeper dives into Battlefield, Star Wars, and more. YouTube.com/Uplink Podcast and StarWarsUplink.com.